Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, everyone. Um, Let me figure out. I'm that. Okay. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm just. Okay, if I do. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I was fiddling around with maybe some transparency, but meh. This works for now. I'll fiddle with that later. So, I don't not 100% understand. I don't 100% know what the. Oh. And okay, so I'm just looking at the integration of the Rusty's farm. Oh yay! But yeah, it's basically like a idle farmer. In theory, you could join. I think I have the Twitch connected. Yes. Oh, I see. You could see me hunting. Okay, that's how it works. Or watering. I see. Even further helpful idle farming. Lovely. Okay, I wasn't exactly sure exactly how there's other commands that you could do. Um yeah. And those are the like the commands are on page 2, 3. If you want to join in and see your little guy planting or watering or collecting. I figured this is kind of like a helps to have a little interactivity going. That's the plan anyways now. And just exclamation mark join. There you go. And you could and then if you do a color, you could change your color. Okay, pink, blue, green, orange, red, purple, gray, gold. We're dancing together. How is everyone? How are you adult doing today? I realize it's been a month since I last streamed. I can't believe it's been a month. It's been a weird month. Let's just say that. And I keep saying this every time, but I swear I'll stream more than just the Monday reading stream. I've got a doggo for as an update. I just finished taking her out for a walk, so she shouldn't bother me any. She's actually down bothering my mom, I think. I'm just around dancing because there's nothing else to plant right now. Anywho, as for okay, so we are jumping off with chapter 3 of Wild Magic. Yeah, I don't have a lot of talking juice in me right now, but I have good reading juice in me. One might say I'm juicy. I don't know. Right. We last left off. Dane met with Anua and got a job. She found they had their first foray against Stormwings, which is metal birds with human faces that roll in feces and dead bodies. She found the raven hawk thing, bird that the Stormwings had been chasing. They came across Alana, or rather, Dane was trying to heal him, but he refuses to eat, so Anya called for help. Alana was nearby, came to help, and then basically asked Dane to search for him magically, and this bird turned into a naked man. Because that's how things go, right? I would say this is the first bird turned man of Tortal. There is officially 2. Although there's a little bit more than 2. There's an entire flock, but... but that's later. Chapter 3. Spy Drones and Meditation. Hedgehogs woke Dane as they wriggled into her bedroll, shaking in terror. It wasn't the controlled fear they felt around hunters, but the wild panic that made them run before a fire. She eased out of the covers. "It's all right," she whispered. "Stay here." She dragged on her clothes and boots. She felt it now. Heaviness in the air and in her mind. Not like the Stormwings or the rabid bear, but there was a flavor in it that reminded her of the winged monsters. In the camp around her, the men slept quietly. No snorers like Granda. Anua was mumbling in her sleep. Tahoy was not with her or the ponies. "Stay," Dane told Cloud, who wanted to follow. She fitted the string to her bow and checked its draw as she looked around. A light burned in the lioness's tent. The other one, where the man who'd been a hawk lay, was dark. The wood outside their camp was thick with fear. Tiny beasts dug as far into the burrows as they could. The big ones were gone. An owl sitting overhead was almost mindless with terror. That was bad. Owls didn't scare. Dahoy sat at the edge of the trees, nose to the wind. When Dane rested a hand on his shoulder, the dog flinched. What is it? He knew only that it was bad. And it was coming. Stay with the ponies. Guard them. Dahoy whimpered in protest. Waiting for trouble to reach him was hard. Better to hunt it out. Go on. He obeyed, reluctantly. A sentry nearby raised a hand in greeting. Looking past him, Dane saw another. Do you hear anything? She asked. I think something bad is coming. Something wrong. I hear nothing. It was Hakim. He didn't take his eyes off the woods beyond. Go back to your sleep. There was no sleeping. Not now. Checking the ponies, Dane found they were afraid too. Beyond them, the horses were silent. Oh, sorry, one sec. Beyond them, the horses were silent. Wait, no. What? I was making up word. I was making up a word, apparently. Okay. Beyond them, the horses were alert. Watching the trees like sentries. The warhorse pawed the air. He knew danger was close. Wanting to fight it, he pulled his tether to see if it could be yanked from the ground. Not yet, she said, patting his withers. Watch. Wait. She walked toward the forest. Don't go alone. Dane wrenched around and lost her balance. A strong hand grabbed her elbow and raised her to her feet. It was the lioness, wearing a shirt, breeches, and boots. The red hem at her throat glowed steadily. A naked sword lay in her right hand. Easy, the knight cautioned. What brings you out here? They walked to a small clearing almost 30 feet away. Dane took a deep breath and made herself calm down. There is something close by that isn't right. I can't explain it better than that. The lioness scanned the trees all around. I feel it too. She tapped her gem. This warns me of trouble. Sometimes. Look. Her ma had said she had an owl's night sight. That was how she saw the rabbit in the clearing. When someone else would miss it. Kneeling to lift the body, she found it was still warm. White light, Alana's magic, appeared over her hands. The knight touched the body with a palm and felt its warmth. Then touched the red drops at the rabbit's nose. She sniffed her fingers. Blood! Its heart burst. It was scared to death. Dane was sure of it. Gently she laid the dead creature atop a nearby stump. There's something else, lioness. The big animals. There isn't a one within a mile of this place right now. Listen. Night doused her light and obeyed. Nothing's moving out. A bat darted between them, chittering a warning. Startled, the knight and the girl jumped back, and a rope that glowed a sickly yellow-green dropped into the space where Alana had been standing. Noise overhead made Dane look up as she put an arrow on the string. A monstrous spiders hurtled down at them. She shot it before she even knew what she fired at. A man screamed above. Black fluid fell under her hand, burning like acid. She put 2 more arrows into the thing and jumped aside when it hit the ground. Alana was shouting a warning to the camp. Dane was about to wipe her hand on a leaf when something moved on the edge of her vision. She leapt out of the way and the lioness moved in, as smoothly as butter. Her swords flashed once. A powerful cut sliced 2 of the rear legs off a new attacker, then twice, beheading the thing. It happened so fast, Dane wasn't sure it happened, till Alana dragged her out of the way of the monster's death throes. Knight and girl waited, breathless, for a moment or two, to see if another giant spider would appear. I don't think there are more, Dane said at last. It felt wrong out here, before. That's almost gone now. Many jointed legs moved, and she knew the one she had shot was still alive. Gulping down nausea, she drew her dagger and walked around the front to kill the thing. Cutting off its head was fast. She had thought they were spiders, almost as big as she was, with bodies dressed in dull black fur. That was bad enough, until she saw this one from the front. Head and neck were human, its teeth as sharp and pointed as a giant cat's. It screamed with a man's voice, enraged at seeing the knife. Her mouth dropped open. A cry of fright and repulsion came out as a strangled croak. Her knife dropped from numb fingers. No wonder these things had felt like storm wings in the night. They were just as wrong. An eerie mating of animal and human that had no reason to exist. Great merciful goddess. Alana came up behind her. It made Dane feel better to know the paleness of the knight's face wasn't due entirely to the light she had called so they could see. Have you ever heard, or ever? She turned her back on it, let it die slowly, and found a log where she could sit, shuddering in horror. Claranda had told her stories about monsters, human-headed and spider-bodied, named Spydrins. A brave man hunted them best at night, he said. Their webs glowed in the dark. A hand rested on her shoulder. Little girl, your ancestors are proud tonight. It was the sentry, the man, Hakim. You are the best archer I have ever seen. Better, even than the lioness. Alana nodded. She knelt beside the thing, examining it with a stick rather than touching it herself. We're lucky you sensed them coming, Dane. The girl swallowed, thinking, you couldn't pay me to touch that. Even with a stick. The hedgehogs woke me. I didn't know what it was out there. I could feel something wrong was close. But I didn't think it looked like this. Wincing as the night pulled. Wincing as the knight pulled the thing's head back by the hair. It was dead now, she added. Rolanda told me stories about Spydrins. He said they were killed ages and ages ago. Not killed. Hakim's voice was steady, but his face glowed with sweat. They were imprisoned in the divine realms 400 years ago by the greatest of shamans. You mean they're gods? Dane asked, horrified. The mortals and gods aren't the same. They just live in the same place. Alana dusted her hands, like the Stormwings, Dane. They were shut into the divine realms at the same time, along with a great many other creatures, griffins, dragons, and so on. Dane swallowed. There were more of these? They were loose too, escaped from the prison where they'd been locked for so long. Horse lords! Alana had found them. Lioness! What? They're called spydrins. The knight's voice was almost matter of fact. Goddess knows how many of us they would have killed and dragged off to munch on if your Dane hadn't been alert. You killed one too, Dane reminded her. She went to the clearing's edge and listened to the woods beyond, just in case. All around she heard creatures stirring, large and small, as they resumed their night's business. I don't know if I'd ever come out of my burrow again, she thought. Remembering an obligation, she glanced behind her. Hakim and Anua were going over the spydrin using sticks. Most of the camp had come to watch and to marvel. One of the soldiers was vomiting at the edge of the clearing, which made her feel better. At least she hadn't thrown up. She faced the trees where the bat had fled after warning them. Thanks, wing friend, she whispered. Thank you for both of us. In the darkness ahead, a bat squeaked in reply. Dane smiled and went back to the humans. It's over, she told Alana. The animals are coming out. She felt suddenly exhausted. The burn on her hand throbbed. Anua put an arm around her. We've both had enough excitement. Come on. She steered her to the fire. Are you all right? She hissed in sympathy when Dane showed her the burn and got her medicines. Dane barely remembered having the burn cleansed and bandaged. She was so tired. The pain gone, she got into bed. You're certain you're all right? The woman was plainly concerned. Dane smiled at her. I think so. The hedgehog snuggled in around her once more. I'll have nightmares, for sure. Me too, Anya sighed. At least we're alive to have them. She eased into her own bed. What of him? The hawk? The man? Dane pointed at the patient's tent. Anya smiled. Master Salmalen slept through the whole thing. He'll be mad as fire when he hears too. Spydrins are more his line than ours. Dane said shyly. Why didn't you tell me the truth about the hawk? A sigh came from the other bedroll. His shape-shifting. It's a secret. Only a few people know. And we're not supposed to tell. It isn't that I don't trust you. I do. He's a spy? Only sometimes. When the King's Spymaster can't send anyone else. He was supposed to get well and fly off, and I'd never know. That was the plan. There was a rueful note in Anya's voice. I know now. Yes. You planning to tell somebody? Dane thought about that. You just said it was a secret, didn't you? I won't tell. Good. Now go to sleep. No one left the camp by the river the next day. The men of the King's Own burned the dead monsters and searched the woods for more. The lioness and Anua sat with their patient all morning. In the afternoon, they summoned Hakim and another soldier who carried a writing desk. Dane kept out of the way of the men. She wasn't used to being noticed and greeted by so many people. Her caution did not extend to their mounts, of course. Once she'd cared for her ponies, she looked at the big horses. Her favorite was Lana's mount, the young stallion who had greeted her so happily the day before. She examined every inch of him, crooning praises into his ear. I think the feeling's mutual, Dane jumped. Once again, the lioness had come up unheard. She grinned at the knight. He's a beauty. His name is Darkmoon. The stallion lipped Alana's breech pocket. He's spoiled rotten. Fishing a lump of sugar out, she fed it to him. His grand dam was my first horse. A fine mare. True to the bone. Giving Darkmoon another sugar lump, she added, You saved my life last night. Dane blushed. You saved mine. Purple eyes are very discomforting when they look at you, she thought. Or is that she's got so much gift it leaks over to all she does? Where did you learn to shoot like that? My granddad taught me. Carved me that bow, too. You'd think your size you'd only be able to manage a smaller one. Dane shrugged. I've always been a fair shot. The woman snorted, but her eyes never left Dane's face. She toyed with the gem around her neck. 3 times he shot overhead and hit a mark that moved. In the dark. That's more than fair shooting. Dane shrugged again. I practice a lot. Alana grinned. I'll stop. I didn't mean to interrogate you. I've been so busy getting a ram story out of him that I forgot. I just wanted to say thanks. You saved my life, and the life of one of my best friends. A ram wouldn't be here if you hadn't nursed him. I'll remember it. Dane swallowed. It was no trouble. Alana took her hand. If you need anything, come to me. A place to stay, money, work. I don't care. If I'm not around, go to my husband. Startled, Dane looked at Alana's ring finger and saw a wide silver band. He's the bear on a pirate swoop. He'll do anything for you. I would. Dane gulped. A king's champion in debt to her. An offer with no limits, and she to apply to the lady for her barren husband? People like her had no business bothering with the great and wealthy. And if Alana knew the truth about her, about what she'd done once, she'd hate Dane. She'd have to. The knight must have seen refusal in her face. Promise me. Dane wondered if there was a way to get out of it. Alana had the look of someone who wouldn't let this go, however. I promised, lioness. Alana, Anima called from the tent. We need you for a minute. Coming, the knight replied. By the way, can you wield a sword? Me? Gods, no, she said, shocked. A sword was a weapon for nobles. The lioness grinned. I shouldn't be glad, but I am. Seeing Dane's puzzlement, she explained. If you are as good with a sword as you were with the bow, I couldn't take the competition. She clapped Dane on the shoulder and returned to her patient. The next day, everyone rose at the first lights. Aniwa and Dame from habit, the others from necessity. You're staying here? Alana wanted to know. Aniwa spooned porridge into a bowl and gave it to her. Just for today. Give Aram a little bit more time before we go west. How about you? I'll see the local magistrate. Now I have Aram's information, Alana explained, drizzling honey into her bowl. Once I get a writ of arrest from him, Cynthia's mine. So that's why you were so near when I called for help, said Aniwa. Springtime, you're usually at Pirate Swoop. You're waiting for a ram? Alana nodded. He has proof now that Cynthia is dealing with Garthak. Aniwa smiled grimly. I knew it. The knight frowned. I'm sending word to the king to tell him about our visitors last night and the Stormwings. She shook her head. I can't understand why these immortals are reappearing now. We've had reports from all over Tatal and from our neighbors as well. Also, I don't think that they were on hand to chase our friend. I don't like it that they were on hand to chase our friend when he escaped. Hi, Kira. You don't think it was a coincidence? Anya asked. Or does Cynthia have an arrangement with those things? Dane winced. The idea of humans welcoming such creatures was chilling. Alana sighed. I don't know. That's one of the questions I'll ask his lordship when I arrest him. In the meantime, I'll leave you to your travels. Hey. You were already out an hour ago, honey. Give me another hour. You could hold it. Okay, Alana sighed. I don't know. That's one of the questions I'll ask his lordship when I arrest him. In the meantime, I'll leave you to your travels. Don't let Aram overdo things. And it might be best if he kept from shape-shifting for a while. Not that I think he'll have the strength to try. The knight finished her breakfast and got to her feet. Time to ride. With the consent of the men who tended Darkmoon, Dane brought the saddled horse to his mistress and held him as a lioness mounted. This time the knight wore a leather jerkin, studded with metal rings instead of her mail. Seeing Dane look at it, she said, I drew it from our spares. They always bring one in my size. It doesn't look as nice as the mail, but it's more comfortable. She offered Dane a gloved hand to shake. I'll see you again, if not at the palace, then later on. Take care of my friends, and take care of yourself. Dane returned the woman's firm grip. Safe journey, lioness. Give that Cynthia man a few lumps for me. Alana laughed. I hope to do just that. She looked back. The men of the King's Own were in the saddle. Forward. Dane, in awe, watched them go. This was what she dreamed when Elonua said they were going to Tartal. While some things were different, she thought as the riders retreated from view. Pulling the badger's claw out of her shirt, she polished it with a thumb. She's shorter than I expected. And I never thought she'd swear or make jokes. She's a legend, sure enough. But she's so human. An idea made her jaw drop. If she's a legend and a hero, then anyone could be a hero. Tucking the claw into her shirt, she ran back to camp. If anyone might be a hero, could I? She asked herself and smiled. No, not me. Still, she mulled it over as she started on a pile of reins that needed mending. Anya joined her at their fire with leatherwork of her own. They worked quietly until she heard her friend say, Look who's up! Their patient stood in front of his tent. Someone, they'd assumed one of the men, had given him a shirt and breeches, as well as a pair of boots. I mean, he couldn't remain nude forever, right? She stared up at him. He was 5 inches over 6 feet in height, with broad shoulders and a well-muscled body. His mass of coal-black hair was combed back and tied into a horsetail to show a face that was dark and sensitive. He moved with the ease of a giant cat as he sat on a lawn beside Anua, but Dane suspected that he hadn't always been so graceful. As a boy, he must have resembled a stork, all elbows and knees. In his late 20s now, he had grown into his looks, and he seemed completely at home with himself. How do you find a pair that fits? Anua pointed at his feet, with all she'd been using on her tack. There's tea in the kettle, and a clean mug right there. His lips parted to reveal white teeth and a shy smile. Thanks. He poured and blew gently on his tea to cool it. Alana witched them so they'd fit. He regarded his boots with a wistful grin. Nobody else had a pair even near big enough. What about your own magic? Anua asked. I'm dry for the moment. Tapped out. His voice was mid-range for a man's. Warm and a little hesitant. Nice to listen to, Dane thought. She kept her eyes away from him as she wrestled with her leatherwork. A pair of large hands came into her field of vision to hold the strap while she set the final stitches. Thanks, she whispered, blushing. You look different. Startled, she looked up into long, shadowy eyes. What? He smiled. You were a lot bigger. She grinned in spite of her shyness. Seems to me you was a bit smaller. Now I think of it. The strap was fixed. He gave it back and returned to his seat on the log. I'd be dead if it weren't for you. You're called Dane? She nodded. I'm glad to meet you, Dane. I'm Nimer Samalan. I thought it was Aram. His eyes flicked to Anua and back to her. Aram's my boyhood name. I go by Numer now. Dane took the hint. The honor's mine, Master Numer. Then, because she had to know, she asked, why didn't you change back? I was stuck. Stuck? When Cynthia caught me, his mage fed me drugs. I panicked and shapeshifted. I didn't remember I was full of all the drugs it takes to knock out somebody my size. You're lucky they didn't kill you, Anua pointed out. You're right. By the time you found me, I couldn't tell ground from the air anymore. The food you offered, I didn't know it was food. Not that I was able to keep anything down. He sipped the tea. It'll be a long time before I take hawk shape again. That's why you had funny eyes, breathed Dane. And that's why you made me dizzy. I wanted to ask you about that. Anua said you got sick, disoriented. I can't understand how. She says you don't have the gift. Odds bobs, Dane snapped. But all her new friends harp on that one thing like Ma? I don't see why this gift is so grand. It comes and goes. You can't do too much at once and you need all kinds of rules. It's more trouble than it's worth. She got up. Whenever I turn around, somebody asks if I have it. I'm good with animals. Isn't that enough? Furious, not knowing whether there were tears on her cheeks, she stamped off into the woods. Numer looked at Anua. What did I say? The Chimera sighed and put down her work. Her mother was a hedge witch. She meant someone with the basic gifts taught by other hedge witches, never hoping to be more than the village healer midwives. She and Dane's grandfather were killed by raiders in January. She wanted Dane to have the gift, not just whatever she has with animals. The old woman kept testing her, as if she thought the girl would develop it overnight. I'd better go after her. No, when she cools off, I'll go. You and Alana were right. She has real power. Not the gift, though. He tapped a pair of twigs together, looking thoughtful. It's wild magic, pure and simple. She's brimming with it. I've never seen a human with so much. You felt it then. He smiled. I felt it when I was a bird, half crazy and dying. Anya sighed. Be careful with her, Aram. She's hurting. I will. He rose, unfolding his length with a groan. Use Numair, will you? I know you trust Dane, but there's no telling who else might overhear. I still have enemies in Garthak who'd like to know where I am. Anya made a face. You're right, Numair. He grinned. Come on. What great sorcerer has a name like Aram Draper? I have to have a name to fit my calling. Don't you think? All you mages are players at heart, I swear. Can't do the magic unless you have all kinds of robes and props and a big audience to cheer you. She waved him off and returned to her work, smiling. Actually, I'm gonna adjust that inactivity to I see. Okay. What? Numair found Dane greeting a woodchuck and stayed in the trees to watch. The girl lay on the ground, her eyes on the level with the chucks. The animal stood on his hind legs, chattering to her. She giggled, then offered a hand. The chuck snuggled against it for a moment, then he chirped a farewell and trotted off into the brush. Numair came forward slowly. He seemed to have a lot to say. Dane was thinking about the chuck. How nice he was after the monsters 2 nights before. Oh, it's the usual spring talk. Freshening up the burrow, getting nice smelling leaves. I told him where to find some wild mints. Her memory returned, and she felt her cheeks get hot. Master Numair, He smiled. No offense taken, if you stopped calling me Master. If I'm to help with the ponies the rest of the way, we may as well use first names. Is anyone mad at me for losing my temper? He shook his head. The motion popped open the tie that held his black locks, and it fell. God bless it. Dane came to help him look. By the time they found the tie, she had forgotten to be nervous with him. It's easier if you wet it before using it on your hair, she explained as they returned to camp. When it dries, then it shrinks. Good advice. Your hair gives you trouble? Oh goddess, my hair's so dratted thick I don't even bother with ties. She giggled suddenly. This is a very strange talk we're having. He grinned down at her. Boys worry just as much about their looks as girls do. We only hide it better. Seriously? She asked, delighted. Living with only Granda and Ma, away from the males of the village, she'd begun to think young men were totally alien. Seriously, he assured her. You should see the lotions I put into my hair to get it to behave. He winked at Anya when they reached the campfire. Anya and Dane spent the next day exercising the ponies and practicing hand-to-hand combat. Something Anya said a woman alone should know. Numair dozed, mended his spare shirt, and did exercises with the arm that had been broken. Is he up to the road? Dane asked during one of his naps. She kept her voice low. He was stretched out under a nearby tree. He maybe should ride, but he's too big for the ponies. We'll take it easy, the Chimera replied. Alana laid a slow healing on him to fix the arm and build his strength. She said in 2 or 3 days he'll be fine. Did you know him from before? We're old friends. Seeing the look on Dane's face, Anya said, Not that kind of friend. He goes for shapely blondes. I like a man that likes horses. No, our hawk took pity on me when I didn't know anyone but the Queen Marie. He likes you. He's the best of friends. Horse lords help you if you get on his bad side. Seeing that Dane looked puzzled, she explained, He is the most powerful sorcerer in Tortal. Dane stared. A boyish man who talked hair ties? Looking over, she saw a butterfly hovering over Numera's long nose. Him? Anua chuckled. Yes, him. Takes a powerful gift to shape change. Numera opened his eyes. You're talking about me, I can tell. He's vain too, Aniwa said loudly. He takes as much time to dress for courts functions as in any lady. Which is bad enough, but then he ruins his clothes sitting on the grass to watch meteor showers. And that's my good side, protested Dumer. You really should tell her some of my faults. He paused, then added, Then again, please don't. I forgot you actually know my faults. Dane laughed. She could see the rest of this trip would be fun. The adults were arguing about protective circles when she began to think of supper. It wasn't fair to let Anya hunt all the time. Like her predator friends, Dane ate meat, taking care to make her kills swift and clean. Now she got hooks and line and told the adults where she would be. There was a big tree on the riverbank where she could sit and mind her lines in comfort, and Anua had a very good way of preparing trout. It wasn't long before her lines were baited and set in the deep pool under the tree. With the hard parts done, she watched the sky and daydreamed, rousing herself only to greet the animals who came to say hello. Cloud found a nearby patch of clover and grazed, keeping her company. Tahoy joined them, looking disgusted. He lay down where Dane could easily scratch his ears. Anua and Numer were doing the sitting thing, not talking or working or paying attention to him. It bored him silly. What's the sitting thing? Dane asked. The dog showed her an image in his mind. Anua, seated with her legs crossed, hands resting on her knees, eyes closed. To that picture, he added Numer, doing the same thing. Shimmering pearly light gleamed around each of them, rippling over their faces. What's that? Dane asked him. That light there. Tahoy didn't know. It was a thing some humans had, and others didn't. Magic, Cloud said. Your dam had it, and some of the others back home. Not so bright as these two. More like a glitter, but it's magic, alright. Anya only does a sitting thing with humans that have the light, Tahoy commented inside. The girl smiled. Find a stick. I'll play with you. Not here, though. I don't want to scare the fish. Tahoy wagged his tail and hunted for the stick. That wouldn't hurt his mouth. Cloud, do I have the light inside? No, the mare replied. The light's only for humans. You may look like a human, but you aren't. You're the people, the folk of claw and fur, wing and scale. Impossible, the girl said flatly. Look at me. I'm pink. My fur's patchy. I walk on two legs. I'm human. Human all over. On the outside, the pony insisted. Not inside. Inside, your people. Dahoy brought a stick, and Dane went to play with them. Cloud was joking, of course. She was human. Ma would have told her if she weren't. Sorry, man, I was just looking at my dog. She's currently tearing up a lid of a box. I need to keep her happy with things to chew, otherwise she's gonna destroy everything. Need pics? Hey, Bill. I posted some pics in your Discord. How are you doing, Mal? Let's see if I can get this camera working properly. And maybe I could have a dog cam set up right now. I just need to figure out where to put it. Good, enjoying listening to you read. You do it so well. I'm already going into the story and I've only been in here 5 minutes. Aw, yay. I'm glad you're enjoying it. On camera. This is not working. Here. Okay. And video capture device. And kind of here. Here, come here. Doggo. Okay, you can kind of see Doggo right now. What are you working at? Shush. Shush. Quiet. Apparently. She's apparently very angry at a window. Oosh. Window's scary. Hello, demon. Not quiet. Yeah. Yeah. I think she sees the neighbor across the way, and that's what has her barking. Shush! Quiet. Quiet, talk. Quiet. Shh. Window's so scary. I think they just see she sees the neighbor out for a smoke. Sitting at his door. You're okay. Yeah, you're just protecting the house. Shush. Shush. Lie down. See if that works. Ish. Not great lighting, but yeah, maybe this would work. Help. Here isn't a great place to put it. Very cute dog. Yeah. She's pretty good too. This is actually the first time she's ever barked. You know what? I'm just gonna leave it up while she's here. She's just tearing apart a box lid. You get and everyone gets to see some feet pics, right? Might be too lewd for Twitch, but who knows? Okay. Where have we left off? Okay, we it did actually leave off at the break, so who? Don't remember where I was in the page. Okay. They left their camp the next day. Anya set an easy pace, stopping twice in the morning to rest. Ymir kept up without appearing to tire. Catching Dane's eye in him once, he thumped himself on the chest and said, "When the lioness puts healing on a man, he stays healed." "Does your ma know you're this silly?" she demanded tartly. He nodded, comically sad. "The few gray hairs she has on her head are my doing. But," with an exaggerated change in mood, I send her plenty of money so she can pay to have them dyed." "I hope she beat you as a child," Anya grumbled. The day passed quickly. Ymir and Anya told stories about the people they knew at the palace. The man even juggled for her. A most unmage-like feat. By the time they made camp, she felt she had known him for years. Building their fire, she ran into trouble. No matter what she did with flint and steel, the wood was too damp to catch. At last, she coaxed it into a tiny flame and held her breath. How does it go?" he asked over her shoulder, and the flame went out. "Gods bless it," she snapped. "What's the matter?" "Oh, they must have had rain here yesterday. Everything's damp." "Sit back." She did as she was told, and the tinder burst into flame. She had to put large sticks of wood on it fast before the fire used up the tinder. "But you didn't point, or make circles, or chant anything." He shrugged. "Some people need those things. I don't." She gasped at his arrogance. "Well, excuse me for breathing." His laugh was full-throated and made her grin. "What? Did they have to enact fire-making rituals before anything would burn? Where you came from?" Her spirits dropped. "Things burned easy back home," she said flatly. "Real easy." She'd been having a good time while her family lay in the ground. Grabbing the shovel, she went to dig the latrine. Teeth dug into the mage's elbow, making him yelp. He looked down at his attacker, Cloud. "Stop that, or I'll light a fire under your tail." The mare squeezed a little harder and released his arm. "It was going so well." Anya was gripping the ponies. She laughed. The mare rubbed his elbow. He'd gotten off lightly. Cloud had only barely nicked the skin. She'll laugh again. Dane kept to herself, and the adults left her alone, talking quietly. When the cleanup was done, they did the sitting thing. It was as Tahoe had shown her, with eyes closed and legs crossed. They sat, hands on their knees, breathing as if they were asleep. In fact, Dane went to sleep, watching them. That night, it came to her that Ma and Granda probably wouldn't mind it if she had fun now and then. They'd been partial to fun, making berry strings or playing catch with the bread dough. In her packs were two of the dancing puppets Granda had made for her birthdays. The horse, and one that looked just like Ma. The others had been ruined, but she had saved these. She got up in the morning with caution and sent the raccoon and the marten, who had spent the night with her on their way. She hated apologies, but if Anya and Ymir were angry, she would make some. Luck was on her side. Their grouchiness seemed to be normal morning grouchiness. All they wanted to do was drink their tea, eat their food, and get moving. Dane let it go at that. If they weren't angry about how she'd behaved, why remind them? They made good progress that day. Once supper and cleanup were done, Numair stretched. Let's go, Aniwa. You won't improve without practice. Dane knew what came next. What's the sitting thing? They looked at her blankly. You know, what you're going to do now. Meditation, Numair said. It clears the mind and rests it. If you have the gift, meditation helps your discipline. His eyes were thoughtful as they rested on her. Would you like to learn? I don't have the gift. Was he going to start on that? He shrugged. It's not only for the gifted. I told you, it rests the mind. It helps you get a grip on the way you think. It helps you decide what you want, Anya added, and how to get it. Jane scuffed her foot to the dust. Is it hard? Both of them smiled. You won't know until you try, Numair pointed out. Jane shrugged and sat as they did, Taylor style. Now what? Hands on your knees, sit straight, and close your eyes. Let the thoughts empty out. For tonight, that's enough. Just let your thoughts go. Dane heard Tahoe's side. Now he had no one to play with. The next morning, they weren't far from their camp when riders overtook them on the road. Alana and the men of the King's Own. Dane was startled to see that the lioness, so friendly before, was now pale with fury. Darkmoon was as angry as his mistress. He pranced and fidgeted until Dane went to his head. He calmed down. He calmed slowly under her hands. He's gone, the knight told them. From the looks of it, he fled the minute he knew you were safe. Curse him. Those dungeons of his. I know, whispered Numair. He looked suddenly tired. I don't understand, Anya protested. You searched? We did. Alana rubbed her neck. His servants claimed Stormwings came with a box like a sedan chair. They flew off with him in it. Then they can be talked to, Numair said. They're intelligent. Sure they are, Dane said. They talked to Aniwa and me in the marsh. She's right, the Khmer told them. And they searched for Numair in patterns after they lost him. The lioness sighed. Lovely. More fun. All right. We have to see the king. Come along as soon as you can now. Be sure to ward your camp at night. We'll do fine, Numair told her. See you at the palace. The knight and Hakim nodded, and within a few moments the company was galloping out of sight. 4 mornings later, Anua and her companions stopped to rise, and Dane thought her eyes would fall from her head. Before them a river halved a valley that cupped a walled city and more houses than she could count. At the heart of the valley, 3 bridges linked the northern and southern banks, and roads entered the city from every angle. In the west, the city broke through its walls to climb a long slope dotted with estates and temples. Above everything stood a huge castle, shielded by high walls. Its towers, flying bright, colored flags shone in the early sun. A small dome placed among them glowed silver like a giant pearl. Black dots like ants climbed a broad, white paved road from the city below, scattered before the walls and stream in through several gates. That's the palace, Numair said, home of the most unusual royal couple in all history, and their peculiar courts. I don't think unusual and peculiar are the right words, protested Anua, and Dahoy barked in agreement. Do you live there? Anua asked the man. He shook his head. I live south, along the coast. They have rooms for me here, though. He looked at Anua. Press on? She nodded. Their road took them around the city until they reached a bridge over a deep moat. Here, the palace wall was only 10 feet high. The gate was a simple affair of wood and iron. Inside lay a small town, its air scented with molten copper. Pine, cows, and baking. All this, Numair said, supported the palace. Dane shook her head in awe. Guards in maroon and beige waved them across the bridge. Inside the gate, Numair pointed at the palace. I go that way. I need to report in. Tears stung Dane's eyes. You knew he'd leave sometime, she scolded herself. This is it. Don't be a baby. You got important things to do. A big hand patted her shoulder. Just for now, the man said quietly. I'll see you again soon. Anua grinned when he kissed her cheek. You just can't wait to lay hands on your books again. I know that look in your eye. She does too, Numair admitted. Take care of her, Dane. He waved and headed toward the palace, hands in his pockets. Come on, Anua told her. It's this way. Following her out the gate's inner yard, Dane saw more wonders. Around them soared the levels of the palace, with wings and turrets in many styles, telling of additions over time. She saw more glass and a look than she'd seen in her life. Her nose smelled flowers, both plain and exotic. The ears were filled with creaking wagons, shouting people and the clang of metal. Anua led them downhill. Chief among the buildings they passed were large stables, rich with horse smells. Dane would have stopped there, but Anua walked on. Before them lay meadows dotted with grazing animals. Behind the herds were masses of trees, the royal forest, said Khmer. The road ended at the meadows, where two long wooden buildings had been built. One was a stable, a neat and quiet one. The other, connected to the stable by a covered walk, was a two-story barracks. Before it was a tall pole, a flag at its tip. As if showing the banner off, the wind lifted it up with a pop. A red horse reared on gold-brown field. The Queen's riders, said Anua. Home, or at least as much of one as I need. Let's put the ponies in the meadow, and then we'll talk. I think considering it's been a while since I last streamed, that's gonna be it for tonight. I didn't sleep well last night at all. Shh. Oh, okay. Yeah. My cat Becca kept waking me up every couple of hours. It was lovely to listen. Well, we'll be back next week with some more. I swear it'll happen. Hope you get a good sleep. Thank you, Mel. I hope you do as well. Have very pleasant dreams and all that. Anywho, we will end it at that. Thank you for hanging out. It was a blast. And I've been wanting to do it again. So yeah, we'll be back with the reading stream on next Monday. But I swear I'll get some Final Fantasy XIV streams in this week. I still need to finish Endwalker, so I can be prepared for the next expansion. Well, Endwalker and all its expansions. all this whatever called updates, patches. That's the word. I swear I know English. Anywho's, that's gonna be it for tonight. Have a good night. Have a pleasant dream, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. I will raid someone, so hang about if you wish. I'm gonna raid who? You know what? I'm gonna raid Thank You Bye. No, actually, we're gonna raid some more slime. Juby the slime.